Hey y'all, it's Angel here again at the Chicken Coop Homestead, and today I'm going to kind of talk to y'all about straining some of the herbs that I have made into a tincture and some of the supplies that I use and kind of how I go about it, okay? So, here are some of the supplies that I have. I just have like a little, mixing bowl with a spout. I have two different size strainers. I have a canning funnel, but my canning funnel actually has a strainer built in. This can kind of come off, so it's kind of handy sometimes to use. And then I also have this coffee filter. It's like a reusable coffee filter. It's very, very fine, so it gets a lot of that any sediment or anything. And then of course I just have coffee filters, and I have like little funnels to put for jars and things. Of course you can use a regular funnel if you're putting it back into a larger jar. And then I have my rice strainer too, to do it like a press to get all of the herb tincture out of the leaves that are left over. And it kind of just, sometimes I do things different depending on how much of the herb I actually have as to how I might go about straining it. Sometimes I end up having to strain it 2 or 3 different ways. Like I have to just get the bulk of the herb, the tincture through the herb in a big colander strainer, and then I have to strain it again through some of these other methods to get all the little fine particles and stuff out. So sometimes it's just different ways that I might do it, okay? So let's work with, let's work with this valerian first. Okay, so this is valerian. It has been in this tincture since 10/4. Now that's the great thing about doing a tincture, is it really doesn't matter how long you leave it. You need to leave it in the alcohol for at least 6 to 8 weeks, but it doesn't matter past that. It's not going to hurt anything if you've left it in here. You could even leave this in here and just siphon off the top from the top and not strain it, but we're going to strain it today, okay? I have probably about this much of herb in this bottle. Get it off. Here it goes. All right. So what I might do is, let's see here. Take this off for a minute. Sometimes I set this inside this strainer just so that I don't have to hold it. I can, hold the jar. I'm not having to hold 2 different things. Or, like pour this into a jar. Like actually pour it right straight into a jar. Like you can put your canning funnel in there. Put your coffee filter down in here. And try not to make a mess. Try to open this filter back up. And just let it strain through this way. Sometimes I might have to do this a couple of different times to get all the particles out of it. Sometimes you're just first straining for the big majority stuff, then you're straining for the particles. So we're going to let this kind of go ahead and flow through, and then I'll show you how to press it and get all the rest of the juice out. Okay, so one thing that I do remember about valerian root is it is very stinky. It smells like dirty socks and dirty feet. It is very pungent, very pungent. It's a little bit toned down now that it's in a tincture, but when you open the bag of a dried herb, it is almost knock you out. It is so pungent. I'm not going to tell you all the stuff about the valerian, but I will tell you that it is a perennial. You can grow this in more moist, rich soil. It grows about 3 to 5 feet tall. The seeds are easy to germinate. They're easy to self-sow. And the root and the rhizome of a 2-year-old plant is what you use, and you harvest it in the fall. So that's what you use, is the root and the rhizomes of this plant. So I really won't tell you what it's kind of used for. It's in the nervine family, so that kind of is just a broad group of plants that has a specific function. Okay, so I pretty much, this is dripped out. It's still a little wet. Like if I was not doing this on camera, I would probably let this drip some more, but I want to show you what this does. I'm going to open this up, and I just try to gather this coffee filter up as best I can. And we're going to stick this down in there. Let me rinse my hands off. And then we're just going to press. I am not very strong. My arms and stuff are not very strong. So if I had my husband in here, he could probably even, you know, get more of this out. All right. So I've strained it, but there are a lot of particles and stuff still in this container. So this right here, you can, let me see if I can get any more out. Just a little bit more. So this right here, you can just get a bowl together, and this can go in your compost pile. There's nothing in here that's going to hurt having this in your compost pile. So I just got a little bowl here, and I'm going to take this out, dump that in for my compost pile. All right. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to get another jar and strain this through to get all the fine particles out. I'm going to rinse all this out again and for a different herb. So I just rinsed my canning funnel out. I'm going to put another coffee filter back in here. And then I'm going to pour this through again. Be a little bit more controlled now that I don't have all the plant material. See, you can see in that jar, see I still had a lot of sludge in there. So we're going to let this completely filter through, and then I can bottle it up in my bottles or put it in a large jar for storage. And I'm just going to set this over on the counter and let it continue filtering. All right, so the next herb we're going to do is catnip. And it is, I grew this catnip myself, so it's easy, very easy to grow. It grows in dry wayside places. You use the flowers and the leaves, and you gather it while it's flowering in the summer and the fall. And the good thing about catnip is it's gentle enough for children. And I'm not really going to talk to you. It does smell kind of a peppermint and grassy smell, kind of has that kind of a smell. It doesn't smell bad, and it is another nervine. So that is a little bit about catnip. I'm not going to tell you what it's all used for. You go look that up yourself. Okay, if I get this off. Y'all, my hands are, I'm not very strong in my hands. Okay, so this has a lot of plant matter in here. So what I may do is just strain a little bit at a time in here. Try to get most of the liquid out here. All right, so we're going to let this drip through, catch as much liquid as we can. Slide that over, and I'm probably going to try to put some more. Get a little bowl and see if I can put some more in a coffee filter and strain that. Press it. What's also funny about what I've noticed when I do tinctures is even though this is wet, when I like put it in the paper, it's almost dry. It has a spent texture to it. You almost hear it dry like fall into the paper. It's the strangest thing. Even though it is still wet, you can tell the herb is used. Everything has been extracted out of it. It's just the craziest thing. That's one good thing about having lots of canning funnels. You can do multiple things at a time here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this down a minute. Try to fold this up as best I can. It's less messy that way. See, I've kind of got it tucked up in a little. Put it in my strainer, my press. And see how much liquid I'm getting out of just those little spent leaves. Okay. And that doesn't seem like much, but you're just using drops of this, so all what you can save and press out of here, the better. Try to get this folded up best I can. Now I'm going to put another coffee filter back in here. I'm going to pour this back through and let it get all the little fine particles out. So here is catnip. I really encourage all of y'all to grow catnip. It's a very easy herb to grow, very easy to dry. You get a big, bountiful harvest out of it, and you can use it medicinally. So we're going to let this sit over here and let it finish drying. Be sure and take my label so I don't get all these herbs confused. Let me get all this rinsed off again, and we'll come back and do another one. All right, so this one is violet leaves. These are I talked to y'all about these. These are just ones that grew in my yard. Violets, they can be kind of a nuisance. They're cute little plants. I like them, but they don't want to stay where you plant them. They will soon be all over your yard if you plant violets. So see, I just had a small little amount of violets. So we're going to let this drip through. Since this one, I didn't have very much plant material, I can just let this sit. When it's done, I'll be able to press it, and it probably won't have hardly any sediment or anything like that in it. And it can go straight into bottling into a jar. All right, so this next one is nasturtium leaves. It doesn't have tons of plant material, so I feel like I can do it just in this. So let's see. And it's funny the different herbs that you use, what color the alcohol will end up being. If it, sometimes it's very dark and almost black and really has just a deep color, and then sometimes it's kind of just a pale green color. Just depends on the plant. Oh yeah, I was able to get that in there without making a very big mess, so that was good. Okay. So we're going to let this sit over here and finish straining. Now this next one, I've waited for it for last because it's a cayenne pepper tincture. I'm not going to use gloves. I feel like I can get it poured pretty good without it being too bad, but you might want to use gloves if you're preparing this, because it's going to be very concentrated. And like I say, this is one of the ones that I learned about from the homegrown herbalist, Dr. Patrick Jones, as an emergency medicine to kind of have on hand. So go to his channel and learn about cayenne pepper tincture. I'm also going to make a cayenne pepper oil. I haven't done that, but that's one of the next things I'm going to probably make is a cayenne pepper oil. May have to let that sit a little bit. And get the rest of this out. going to touch that. As long as what comes out is what's going to come out. All right, so we're going to let these kind of drain, and then I'll come back and press them out and see how much more we get out. And y'all can see when I press them out how much more tincture we get out of the leaves. And those few little drops, that seems kind of silly to just press for, but those few little drops could be a whole dose. So you want to get as much out of your herb as possible. So that little hand press does a really good job. Especially for me, because I'm just, I'm dabbling, and it's just a personal use thing. If I was making this to sell or anything like that, you could have commercial presses and all that kind of stuff. All right, so my battery was dying on my phone, so I had to get that plugged in and get it charged a little bit more. But I finished pressing out all my herbs. I just want to show y'all how much of the tinctures and stuff that I got from all these. Okay, so I got 2 jars of cayenne pepper tincture and a whole, little half-pint jar of cayenne pepper tincture. This is kind of an emergency tincture. Like I said, go to Homegrown Herbalist, and he talks about that, so that's good to have on hand. I got 2 bottles of violet leaf tincture. If y'all remember, that was my smallest little bottle, but out of that little bottle, I got 2 bottles. These are 4-ounce bottles of violet leaf tincture. Out of these, let's see what this is. Okay, this is nasturtium leaf. Out of nasturtium leaf, I got this little small jelly jar. I got 2 vials and then another bottle of nasturtium leaves. So I'm going to share some of this with some people I know. Okay, this was valerian. This was that first one I said that was so stinky. My kitchen still smells like old socks. But valerian, I got 2 bottles here. I got another bottle here with just a stopper. And so I got 3 bottles out of that valerian. My catnip, I got like almost a whole jelly jar full here. One of these big jars. And I got another little dispenser bottle full. So as you can see, it doesn't take a lot of herb to make enough for dosing for your medicinal herbs. So I hope y'all enjoyed this little video. It wasn't really informative about each of the herbs. It was just kind of a process of me showing y'all how I strain them, some of the equipment and stuff that I use, and that don't be daunted. This is an easy process. You can do this. To me, this was like fun today, playing with my herbs. It's a long process. I grew all this stuff last year, dried it, tinctured it, and then finally got the end product. So it's time consuming, but it's well worth it. Hope y'all enjoy visiting with me, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.